We have seen and bought and sold the majority of the new OPs.
A steel land dweller with the white dial. Do you think that's going to be up there with a Panda Daytona?
Steel ceramic Daytona is always going to be strong. Probably the strongest is the Pepsi if you talk in numbers.
Which models are actually moving right now at Watchtrader?
Pistachio's trading for slightly above beige, 13 to 14,000.
Would you pay double to triple retail for a Pistachio right now?
The new stone dial GMTs in the market, but I still haven't had any phone calls of anybody asking to buy one.
Is that still in stock at Watchtrader?
It is.
Has that surprised you?
Yeah.
Did you think it would sell quicker?
Definitely.
Rolex announced their new watches in April, and so far only some of them have hit the market. We're going to break down what that means for buyers and sellers and whether it's smart to jump in now or if you should wait. Well, Stu, thank you for taking a seat with me to discuss what's going on in the Rolex market of late. We happen to have picked one of the hottest days in Newcastle, which is a rare occasion. Yeah, I know, so we'll be
Appreciate that.
Getting a bit toasty in the podcast studio, but let's get straight into it, because what I would like to know is which of the 2025 Rolex releases have we actually had at Watchtrader bought and sold?
We have seen and bought and sold the majority of the new OPs.
Okay.
The lavender, the beige, the pistachio.
That's the one. Black and blue.
Black and blue. Mm-hmm. So those are the guys that we've bought and sold a lot in Watchtrader since the release. Mm-hmm. And we still have it in stock. We have the yellow gold green dial, so-called, is it the John Mayer new Daytona?
See if the name sticks.
We'll see if the name sticks. The Sky Dweller with the yellow gold with the green dial, Oyster Flex and on Jubilee. Mm-hmm. And apart from that, it's mainly been the OPs.
Okay, so with the OPs, which colours do you think are getting the most attention?
Obviously the novelty. Mm-hmm. So the top three, lavender, pistachio and beige. Probably this pistachio being number one, but in terms of volume, I think it's very close to the lavender of how many we've sold. But again, with the OPs, you've got lots of dial options, lots of case size options.
So how much are the pistachio and the beige lavender, how much are they going for right now?
So in 41mm pistachio beige, pistachio's trading for slightly above beige, ballpark figure 13 to 14,000, mm-hmm. Beige 12, 13. As a ballpark figure as it stands today. And
then the dials like the black and the new blue,
yeah,
which I know we've had in as well. How much are they?
Just less than double retail. So what's the retail? 5,650,
okay.
something like that.
Just under 10k.
So around 9,000 pound as it stands today.
Okay. And have any of them surprised you in terms of the actual watches themselves, or are they kind of what you expected when you saw them in person?
No, I like all of them. I think the OP range is a really cool, funky watch. Even my partner, she wears the OP. She wears it every day. I think it's a very versatile watch, and I think it's a great watch. And that's why when the new dials come out, the demand sometimes more than double retail.
Because it's one of them watches that we know there's collectors who have more than one of the OP, right? They have it in a few different colours.
100%.
It's like
especially
a collectible watch.
In the larger sizes, in the 41.
So why do you think Rolex released these new releases first? They don't release everything at the same time, do they?
No, but it makes more business sense to prolong the releasing the new models and keep the demand high, and the hype around the Rolex brand. Mm-hmm. That just makes more business sense in terms of manufacturing the actual watches. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that process would work, but obviously I presume that the OPs are probably a lot more mass produced than some of the precious metal watches. Mm-hmm. So there will be a lot more of those watches in the market, and it's classed as being a starter watch.
Yeah.
Or, your first Rolex, either that or a Datejust. So you would tend to think that they would sell a lot more of the OPs.
Do you think it's achievable for somebody going into the AD for the first time to come out with an Oyster Perpetual as their first watch? Maybe not on the day, but
I would like to think so.
Yeah,
I would definitely like to think so, and and I would like them to choose whichever dial they prefer, whether it is a hype one or it's not.
So then the watches that have come, like the pistachio, the beige, have they come from VIP clients, or is it mixed?
So we've bought some from the trade, mm-hmm. But yeah, we do buy the majority of our watches from end users. So people.
I guess what I'm asking
them.
though is if you know some of the clients that you've bought them from, do you know that they get a lot of watches from the ADs?
So
like, do you think they're VIP watches?
Yeah, the majority of the watches that we've purchased are people who's had a previous spend history. So yeah, that hasn't been first time purchase.
Yeah, they're getting first picks on the Pistachio and stuff like that.
Yeah, that tends to be how Rolex do their business. You know, everybody, all of the sales agents inside of the stores, they have their own client base.
Yeah.
And they'll offer them to those guys first.
So do you think there's enough?
We all know that.
There's enough demand to sustain the current market prices on the most hyped OP dials?
Yeah, definitely.
So over the next 12 months, would you expect, like if we look at say 13K, do you think it's going to sit around there, or potentially a small drop, but it's not going to be half, is it?
No, definitely not. Potentially a small drop just due to the current hype, but yeah, it's definitely going to be double retail.
And yourself, would you pay double to triple retail for a Pistachio right now?
Yeah, why not? If I wanted that watch, what else can you do? Yeah. The way you have to class it, Harry, it's the market price. Mm-hmm. So you're happy to pay the market price for something. Mm-hmm. In the back of your mind, you're going to wonder whether the market price is going to go up or go down. Mm-hmm. So I think personally for that watch, I think it's pretty stable. It might potentially go down a small amount, with the beige or the pistachio and the lavender, because it's quite high at the moment. But if I wanted that watch, I would be happy to pay market price for it as it stands at the moment.
Yeah, I think again it depends what your collection is. Like if you don't have a Rolex at all, for that kind of money, you could pick up something like a Submariner, some of the GMT. There's a lot of options, right? And some people might place those models above an Oyster Perpetual. But if you have a collection and you want to add something to give it a bit more flavour,
and even if it's your
then
first,
an OP
even
could
if
be
it's
the
your
one.
first watch and you're set on a Pacific dial, I definitely think long term, it's going to be a fine purchase.
Which of the other new models have you seen in the trade groups or seen on other dealers' websites for sale, but we haven't actually had at Watchtrader yet?
You'll see watches for sale on various platforms and sites, and they may not have that watch, or they've just took it in on a consignment. Mm-hmm. But I think in terms of which watches have been released, if that's the question, I think majority have been. The only ones that I probably haven't seen being available within the market are the GMT, so the 2 stone dials, the new root beer with the stone dial, and also the Tiger Eye, and also the yellow gold on Jubilee.
So some of these new precious metal watches, we're seeing them listed quite a lot above retail. What do you think is the deal with that? Like, do you think other dealers are buying these watches, or are they consigning these watches, or how do they figure out the price?
So I would work on supply and demand. I know with the OPs, there's lots of demand for the OP, so I'm happy to purchase, put money into those watches, because I know that they're going to sell, and they're going to sell fast. We'll sell them within a couple of days easily. I'm saying we haven't seen any of the new stone dial GMTs in the market, but I still haven't had any phone calls of anybody asking to buy one. Same with the Land Dwellers. It's going to be such a hot watch, but I haven't had anybody on the phone. Can you get me the new Platinum Land Dweller?
So the yellow gold Daytona with the bright green dial and yellow subdials.
Yep.
Is that still in stock at Watchtrader?
It is, yeah.
And how much is it?
So we have that watch priced at £75,000 as it stands, brand new. I think it's probably going to be one of the fairest price watches in the UK. Small amount of interest, to be honest with you. I think a watch like that compared to the older reference, I think really it should be around a £10,000 spread. So maybe it's just a little bit too high as it stands at the minute.
And has that surprised you?
Yeah.
Did you think it would sell quicker?
Definitely.
Okay.
You would normally expect the precious metal new dial models, the guys who have maybe the current one, the older one, they have the current one and the one at now, regardless of what the price is. But again, it's been more of the OPs, to be honest.
That's a very prestigious watch, right? And also another one that's come out was the Tiffany dial or turquoise dial, Oyster Flex, yellow gold. Are you surprised by the number of the watches that are in the market for these super exclusive models?
I think with the turquoise, there is a very small amount of watches available in the market. I would like to think the majority have gone to collectors and you know, and they'll stay in their collection. The watch can be bought. You know, if you go back maybe 2 months ago, the watch was probably, or people were asking maybe 30 to 40,000 pound more for what that watch is now. So it probably started out the gate at around 120 pounds, 120,000 pounds, and when now you're probably going to pick that watch up for 75 to 85k.
And you think it's an intentional move from Rolex? They know that that watch is going to get a lot of attention, so they get that out the gate straight away, but only in limited numbers. So then the ones that do hit the market,
I think it's just going to be it's going to be offered to the VIP clients. You know, people who's got a large spend history. Each boutique is going to have a very limited number of watches available, of that watch available, and it's just going to go to a select few.
From a dealer's perspective, are you selective on which watches you will make a purchase offer for and which ones you would only consign? And do you have an example of a new release that you would only consign at the moment?
Well, we try as a business to make an offer on both. You know, we're happy to purchase or consign. When it's going to be consignment only, it's where the price that the client expects or wants to receive isn't in line with how we see the watch value-wise. And if it's a small amount, then yes, we'll be potentially consider consigning the watch. But if the price that the client's expecting back for the watch is a lot higher than I think the watch is going to potentially sell for or be in the market price for, then we'll probably just we'll just decline it, because you know, we don't want to stock something which is overpriced, even if it's very limited. And if we don't feel the price is fair, which we're going to have to relay on to the client, then we'll just pass on it. The VIP clients who's managed to get these watches, they'll offer them around to people. They'll offer them to people like us, you know, and they don't have an idea of what they're just pulling a figure out of the sky. Yeah. So you have to educate people slightly what you've seen them for in the market. You know, when you see them in the market, as in B2B, that doesn't always necessarily mean that they've actually sold for that price.
Yeah, of course.
Anybody can advertise a watch for a price. You know, it's whatever the watch is sold for, that's going to be the market price.
So which of the new releases are you actually buying right now and are happy to put the money into?
We'll offer on everything, Harry. Yeah. As long as the price is correct, you know, and we feel it's a price where we can make our margin on, and it's going to be at a fair price for the end consumer, then we'll make an offer on the watch.
Okay.
You know.
Going back to watches that we haven't seen. So these are the Land Dweller in rose gold, the Land Dweller in platinum, and then also, like you said, the GMTs with the Tiger Iron dials.
Yeah, so the ones that we haven't seen, or I haven't seen personally within the market, we're talking the world here, we're not just talking the UK, is some of the precious metal Land Dwellers, the smaller sizes also, I think, and also the two new GMTs, the rose gold and the yellow gold.
And how rare do you think those will be compared to other models? So, for example, a steel Land Dweller with the white dial, do you think that's going to be up there with a Panda Daytona or a Pepsi on Jubilee? Or do you think it's going to be... Yeah, you know, how do you think Rolex are treating that watch?
Well, as it stands at the moment, then 100% yes, there's none around.
Yeah, well, I was talking about the steel one, right, with the white dial. So there are some of those in the market.
Very, very some.
Very few.
A lot more Panda Daytonas and Pepsi GMTs. A lot more.
Do you think people expected the Land Dweller to be so rare?
They've literally just been trickling out of the ADs.
Yeah.
You know, literally trickling out of the ADs. And whether it's a case of the price point for the platinum, is people prepared to pay that for it? When there's no pre-owned market as it stands at the moment. Only time will tell. But yeah, it's definitely I would say the rarest watch to pick up at the moment.
Can you give an example of a price of a steel Land Dweller? Do you remember one that you've seen in the market recently?
Probably talking 3 times retail.
Right, okay. And then in terms of the Tiger Iron dial, that's a natural dial, right? Like a stone dial. Do you think there's genuine supply constraints to those? Or do you think, again, they're just Rolex are positioning it as a super exclusive dial?
A little bit of both, to be honest with you. So yeah, it is going to be a lot harder and a lot rarer to have that watch produced. So there's going to be fewer numbers. So definitely, I think a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think it's a particularly interesting dial. It's one of the most interesting dials that Rolex have come out with.
I'm actually looking forward to hopefully seeing both at some point in the near future. I would like to have both in person to be able to have a look at the watch, try the watch on, and potentially sell it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those ones.
So right now in the market, what do you think buyers should focus on if they want something that holds value well? How would you advise someone?
Depending on where you're buying them from. For example, if you're buying a Pikachu Oyster Flex from an AD, then you know your money's going to be safe. Mm-hmm. Same with the Ghost. Those two Oyster Flex styles do very, very well. The same would go with the Meteorite Oyster Flex Daytonas if you manage to buy all of any one of those at list. Mm-hmm. But if you're in the grey market, it's going to be different because you're purchasing it at market price.
So price watches, what we
be
saying?
Prepared. So if you're buying something which is pre-owned, it's been out in the market, it's not a hype watch, be prepared to lose 10 to 15%.
Okay, in a short-term period, if you...
Yeah, if you're looking to buy or if you're looking to sell it in a short-term period, yes.
Which models are actually moving right now? What are people buying this month or last month at Watchtrader?
Well, it's whatever we push and whatever we buying at the time, isn't it? It's quite mixed, but it's always going to be it's always going to be the Pepsi. Bruce Wayne on Jubilee is always going to be strong. Mm-hmm. Steel ceramic Daytona is always going to be strong, but probably the strongest is the Pepsi if you're talking numbers. Well, remember, probably back in not in 2025, but in 2024, we were selling a lot of Datejust 41s. They've seemed to slow down quite a bit. And you see a lot of the green dials in the market. And I think Rolex have produced a lot more green dials than the other dials. Right. You see a lot of them.
Okay, well, Stu, I think that about wraps it up. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. And if you'd like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.